To finish up our call for this week, we've got one more video review. This one, we've got Tom, and he's asked for a weakness analysis on his lifts. These are his lifts from his competition, heaviest lifts from his competition. So let's check these out. All right, Tom. So your weakness in the squat, just like everybody else who's a raw squatter, is in the bottom. I'm also thinking that it's not so much quads as it is hips for you. So you'll want to make sure that you're doing all your hip exercises, anything that's focusing on that hip hinge with a lot of focused attention. Make sure that you're getting all your volume in on those hip dominant movements. I don't think you're to the point where you need to totally neglect your quads or anything. You know, I wouldn't pull out all the quad exercises or anything. But I think training glutes, especially, is going to be something that will help your squat. As far as that'll be more for your supplemental lifts. For your assistance lifts, they're already designed to target the bottom of your squat because that's where 99% of raw squatters are weak. So it's already designed to fill in that gap for you. So you can perform your assistance squatting just as listed. So let's take a look at your bench here. Wow, what a grinder. Nice job on completing this lift, by the way. It looks like your grip is fairly narrow for your frame. I can't see where you are on the bar, but it looks like you may have some space to go out a little bit wider. I'm going to assume that the reason that you're not wider is because that's causing some problems with your shoulders. So if you can go wider, then I would recommend experimenting with it at least. But if you can't, then let's do this analysis kind of assuming that you can't go any wider, and this is where you're going to be competition style. So right there is your sticking point, but you had to get there somehow. So really where you lose all your bar speed, you come off the chest pretty good, but you lose all your bar speed right around a one board level. That's where things start bleeding off. And then your strength curve is able to catch back up by the time you hit that sticking point, and you can grind through the lift. So I would say you need to spend more time at like a one board level. The pause benches and the pin presses from chest level are going to be really good for you. They're going to have carryover to that. Just make sure with the pause presses that you're not sinking it into your chest. It should be a real light touch on your chest. I want you to continue to produce tension in that position, as much tension as you can. So real light touch on the chest. If you wanted to sub out some of the pause work, then you could do some one board work. You could do two board work as well, but really one board is what's going to be most helpful for you. Again, I think maybe 2 weeks out of 8 is going to be about as much as you want to sub in for this. Yeah. As far as training your lockout, which is I'm sure kind of what you were expecting, or maybe not, maybe you're more well versed in weakness correction than I'm giving you credit for. A lot of people in your case would be expecting that they need more lockout work with a bench like this. I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think you'll get plenty of lockout work just from the regular pressing that you do. I think really what you need to focus on is that just off the chest. Like you've got good power off your chest, but kind of at that one board level, that's where we start to see strength bleed off. In terms of more of your supplemental lifts, the lifts focus more on muscles. I would make sure that you're doing enough pec work. So things like dumbbell benching, even flies, you could sub in flies again 2 weeks out of 8, keeping it more further away from your peaking competition stuff. You could do that. I think having a bit of pec work in there is going to be beneficial for you in the long term as well. Yeah, that'll help facilitate strength through that range of motion. All right, let's look at your deadlift here. All right. Conventional stance, obviously, high hips. Your back is, I wouldn't say that that's rounded. I'd say that that's flat enough to be called flat. To be honest, you pretty much smoked the weight. In terms of weak range of motion, it's hard to see with the naked eye with a weight that's easy like this, because like I said, you smoked it pretty good here. It looks like off the floor strength is where I would have you focus for right now. And even if that's wrong, then it's not going to be wasted. You'll have additional bar speed going into your weak range of motion, if I happen to be wrong about that. But from what I can see, it looks like off the floor is where you want to focus. The good news is the program as designed will focus on that, so you shouldn't really have to make any in terms of muscles. Posterior chain just in general, and I'm going to say emphasize glutes just because of what we saw with your squat, but otherwise, your deadlift looks to be very solid. I'm not sure, maybe there was a miss after this one, but this is definitely a very solid attempt. So that's all I've got for you right now, Tom. Hopefully that helps.